Sometimes, and sometimes it's the mood.
I pulled the back side off so that if you were on the wrong side.
Walter said,
I guess everybody's here. You wanna take a selfie?
yeah. I'll have to.
Say what?
You gotta turn it that way.
I go up,
Yeah.
because I can take the dogs off leash, I go up twice a week probably. I go up to Rock Top once a week.
It's really,
That's pretty good.
I'm pretty sure my wife said she saw you in the grocery store last night. Last night?
Not last night.
oh, I've never just realized. She did?
That's impossible.
Enjoying retirement to its fullest. Except for these 11 PM meetings.
Well, yeah, at least I can sleep in. God, I used to do those 11 PM meetings and then like 3 in the morning, I'm up and going to work, getting ready for work.
All right.
All right, quickly before we get started, one of the things we're gonna discuss is the select board priority list.
Wait, I haven't started the meeting yet, Brian.
I was just calling them up to tell them the papers. If you want a print copy, there are copies on the table.
2 minutes to
What if we want pizza and stuff?
There's a sandwich.
As soon as trust me, I'm buying a case of bottled water, and as soon as the community oven opens up, we're getting 3 pizzas every Monday night.
Sure.
I'm going to make sure they're here.
Yeah.
Okay, it is 7 o'clock.
It's like a representative to that.
Calling the meeting to order. Are there any other agenda items?
Please, no.
There is one other agenda item.
Oh, Duncan.
We're gonna do it at the end though, and it's about rescheduling our July 4th meeting. Okay, but we're not gonna do it.
Okay.
You know, we're gonna tonight. So this is a meeting about brainstorming how we're going to use ARPA funds. I'll let Brian speak to really briefly. We're gonna keep the boring stuff to a minimum. Let Brian really quickly talk about what ARPA funds are, why we're having the meeting, and then we'll jump into some recommendations by the Vermont League of Cities and Towns in terms of things to consider. And we will also you have a list of priorities in front of you, and if you don't have a copy, we'll project it in a second. So Brian, do you want to just give a quick overview of what ARPA is and why we have these funds?
So, I hope you'll forgive me for speaking behind you, but ARPA is the American Rescue Plan Act. It provided a great deal of funding for local municipalities. In Vermont, the bulk of that funding is going to towns. Other municipal districts, villages, and other things were able to get some of their own funds. Our libraries were able to get some funds, but the bulk of the money that's coming to our community is coming by the Town of Johnson. It will be all told over $600,000. With that money, the first thing that we have bring it into our budget and determine how we're going to use it. The rules for using ARPA funds is an extremely complex process, or you could claim them as lost revenue. So, sound like claim them. And based on virtually unrestricted, it's still supported. It frees up our process for how to use the funds. We have some time to decide how we're going to use the funds, but we thankfully allow a lot more flexibility. So, move with that process. we have some ideas about what does the community want to see, what are our wish lists, our goals, and how do we want to use this money for kind of the betterment of the town. These are one-time funds. They don't come with any follow-up from the government. There's no second round. Once we've spent this, that's it. So we want to think about, projects that will have a great impact, kind of transformative to the community, and good use of one-time funds.
So do you want to quote the league, I always said the acronym wrong, the league page? And I'll just read a brief high-level overview, real quick while you're pulling that up. So the Vermont League of Cities and Towns recommends that you continue to take time to be thoughtful and strategic in planning how you use this unprecedented funding to work in your community. Your decision should be prepared for your community for the next disaster, position future generations for success, and whenever possible, help grow your grand list. So those are just guidelines, really. And Brian's going to share I believe this is open. I don't think we have to be logged in to see this, but they also provide some additional content and suggestions for what that might mean. Again, the purpose of us getting together is really brainstorming. So don't let these suggestions restrict what we're throwing out there, but they are just that. It talks about infrastructure projects. It talks about goals identified in the town plan. And I think some of those goals actually are part of what's in this priority list too that you have in front of you. So when it comes to referencing the town plan, I think this is a good focus point for that. And these are in priority order right now, so top down, as of this year, by the way. And then investments to improve municipal business operations, such as cybersecurity, hybrid meeting equipment, connecting public meetings, buildings to broadband as appropriate, digitizing land records, making capital investments in municipal buildings, ventilation, weatherization, fire safety, etc. ADA compliance is part of that too. Implement software changes to streamline operations, work, creating and enhancing official town websites to strengthen communications, creating a formal capital plan, speed a town administrator position, which you have, but help with grant opportunities to help fund projects in our communities. By the way, that seeding opportunity is definitely a theme we've been talking about in thinking through how do we get the most bang for our buck, and can we use some of these funds for matching funds for other grant opportunities. Other investment areas for the community may be outdoor recreation, diversity, equity, and inclusion measures, high quality, affordable childcare for working residents, land banking and other measures to support housing development and grow the tax base, acquisition and rehabilitation of abandoned properties or greening them, improvements to bike and pedestrian safety, improvements to community gathering spaces, and supporting local nonprofits. So again, just suggestions and ideas to get the gears turning a little bit. Is there anything else that anyone wants to add before we jump in?
Beth, isn't it important? I mean, this wasn't necessarily our priorities for ARPA funds.
This was not our priorities for ARPA funds.
Yeah, and I think people need to look at this and realize that the ATV ordinance isn't our second priority for ARPA funds.
Right.
Yeah, these were our priorities as we were trying to brainstorm things for the town.
Good distinction. Thanks, Mark.
The only other thing I would add is that the 750,000 I mentioned is town only. The village is getting a separate allotment. It's based on roughly $300 per person. So I think the village is slated for somewhere around $450,000 of their own.
I thought we were 660.
Yeah, or 6, we're just over 6. Just between 6 and 7. I don't know the exact number is.
Over 600.
Under 7. Okay, should we jump in?
Yeah, I've got, this was, like Mark said, the priority list for select board. Kind of activities, not strictly related to ARPA, but it's another thing that we can use as kind of guideposts. The purpose tonight is, brainstorm, thinking about what are areas that we want to start talking about. We'll start with just the big picture, then, any ideas that we have that we want to get down, we'll start prioritizing and thinking about which ones are going to make the cut later. Right now, we want to just start with ideas.
Yep. Okay, that being said, so, ideas.
Can you give your list?
Walter, yeah, I'm just gonna call people and you give one thing at a time.
I don't know how long or short you want me to start here, but I have a general theme. And to some extent, we have great plans, we just never implement it. And
I would expect nothing less.
I think it's surprising how much we have implemented, but in terms of the recreation facilities plan and the Johnson capital plan. And my theme here to a certain extent is I think we really need to concentrate on what these plans address. And these are also economic development. Recreation industry is a $30 million business in this country. As we've all seen COVID recently, businesses aren't moving, but because more people are working remotely, people are moving. And I think as an economic driver, making Johnson a more livable and recreational hub of this town and city is a goal we should work for. So ultimately, if you look at the recreation facilities plan, it talks about all our facilities that we have, and it says here's all the shortcomings. And I think we can look at all the parks and say there's more we can do to them. When you look at the Old Mill Park, and I think when you look at the River Park, and there's talk of the bridge, that we can make that a whole better place for recreation around the world. We have a new opportunity of the Powerhouse Bridge. We now have 4 corners with more buildings on it. I think we have a fantastic opportunity. Okay, so I think we can look at all our parks and say, here's an opportunity to do everything we want to do. Look at the pathways plan. Ultimately, its goal was to connect a lot of all these facilities and make Johnson a walkable community. Okay, and I think we can now implement some of these goals to actually make this a more livable, walkable, safe community. And ultimately, we're talking to trustees about improving Main Street, making it safer to cross and crosswalks. But I think that's something else we can do. And then I think we can take it the next step when we look at the recreation plan. We have talked on and off, but I think we have a bunch of properties that we're underutilizing in terms of availability for hiking opportunities, mountain biking opportunities, snow machine, for vast and even for vast. I think we have a lot of opportunities to go build trails. Okay, the Gomo lot is underutilized. Paper Lane is underutilized. I think these are places, there's a lovely little property, it's a private owner, I'd love to mention it, but I won't mention it in a public meeting, like in the village, that has an absolutely beautiful little property for mountain bike trails, for little, right here in the village. So ultimately, I think we have the ability to use some of this money to help build these trails. And so the way I look at ARPA, and unfortunately Lisa is stepping down, I'd like to use the ARPA funds to hire a full-time recreation manager so that they would have the ability, the time to implement all these plans And then the ARPA funds could be also used as the match to get a lot of the grants to build a lot of these things, because there are a lot of opportunities for recreation grants every year. There's programs out there. So ultimately, that's where I see we should be investing our ARPA funds, is making this a very desirable, livable community to attract young families, and all. How do you solve road sales? What we really need is a couple $1 million mansions to save our grand guests. But we want to attract those people. I think that when we talk about, I'll just reserve my opinion about a little bit of property out there that in town. I think the recreation will do more for you in the short term than the long term for that big piece of property.
Thanks, Walter.
What was the other document you mentioned?
Pathways plan, both of these are on the website. And there's various other ones that are on the website, capital recreation proposal, Romo down forest. They all talk about recreational opportunities, trails that we built, etc.
Yeah, clarification question. I know the big topic is projects, i.e. future, but are our funds also to that are impacted by COVID? Yes. Because we know our committee is talking.
Our committee meeting, skate park?
Yeah. Yes, sorry, yes. Well, and I possibly other people managing the other park facilities and other. There are COVID-related losses, and
You know what your losses were.
yeah, we last fall we documented about 2,500, 3,000. But you know, I just don't want to lose sight that there's there's budgets that are in the red because of expenses.
Yeah, no revenue with expenses.
I'm not familiar with the bigger picture, but I'm saying that losses.
Yeah. Plus.
I think that's the loss of sources of the actual document.
Let's do this.
But I think that runs the category supporting volunteers in various activities or just having a better information system, communications, new websites, and all following that kind of supporting volunteers.
Charlie?
So what we talked about, I love to remind you, paths called class 4 roads that have not been worked on, specifically in their recreational related, that they suffered some unrepaired by the town, specifically Reservoir Road and Prospect Rock Road. There's a section of Prospect Rock Road that gets destroyed in mud season by recreational users. And there's a section of it that should be upgraded from class 4 to class 3. That. And as long as you're talking about roads, there's a section of class 2 road that could use paving. That's right to the schoolhouse hill.
As what?
Schoolhouse hill. That's a section of road from the Rock Road, intersect the Flipper, in Rock Road. And there's a hill, Rock Road that goes up, and it's all almost always Rock Road. I would just pave that little portion of it.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Come further than there.
No, I that we can experience. Don't go to your house, that's what you're telling me. Okay, yep, got it. So you're suggesting paver upgrade, what were you suggesting?
I paved that portion because it just washed us at all.
Let's see your hand. No. Lisa.
I'm gonna add like add points to remind of it. Rec facilities plan next to it, we just put Bora match. Bora is sort of the biggest outdoor rec grant around right now.
What is the acronym?
BOREC. So we wanna double the money, that's sure we should look at. My biggest dream is the rec center / senior center / library that I think we should try and get McClellan Hall for. Start organizing those. Not being used, closed down by the public. Safe walking distance to our school, and they already have a dance studio, they have a kitchen.
I went to daycare there at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a daycare problem. We just have a daycare for this.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
daycare back in.
Everything you can think of, you took in. Once you name it, we're ready.
Alright.
Hey, guys, dances, pies, winners, pie sales.
Okay, got it. Lisa?
If you could add teen centers, riveting conversations with my kids in there. Church, and my tween teen said that she would want nothing more than a safe, fun space to go to after school and on the weekends to socialize and learn new things and have safe conversations around issues that are really important to that age group. And I love the idea of younger and older people interacting too. I think that's a really amazing.
Connecting these.
Yeah, so I think they could coexist for sure.
Yeah.
My teen and 6-year-old also have a dream of a public pool. And at first, the board had being in school.
How about just a swimming hole?
That's fine, yeah.
Beards.
You
don't have to cool.
You can put that in a separate line, I put my idea over.
But again, it's interesting, we go visit my in-laws that are in a town of 600, and they have an outdoor public pool, and it is the place to be. I mean, it's where you meet friends, it's where you get swim lessons, it's where you work when you're a teenager as a lifeguard, it's where you get an internship and work with your municipality. So there's a lot of I want to build off of Walter's ideas. I think that we have so much. I think our strengths in this town are our outdoor recreation spaces, match and pairing that should be developed more. So I have a vision that some of you have heard already for a sculpture walk that starts at Old Mill, goes through downtown, loops around Howard's Bridge, up and then do down again. But it's, there's a lot to happen. I think there is a lot of potential. An idea around having public art be part of their vision in terms of residencies, so working town and the public and private sector around creating a public art residency, so the artist comes, uses the VSC facility and all their infrastructure,
It's all the same way.
sculpture, paint, and then what they make and that just continues to grow. So I think there's opportunity for that. And then also, I think that putting on my beautification committee hat, we really see an opportunity and a need for an actual landscape for the township. So someone who, you know, like at Newport, where they have an actual, they have a greenhouse, they have a full-time and a part-time person that just does the landscaping and all the beautiful flowers in Newport. And it has become, people come there to see the absolutely economic development. And it creates such an amazing, welcoming space. And I can see that that would tie in with MV2 as, you know, working with them to do internships and somehow tying the school and what they're doing. And lastly, the dog park. Dog parks are communities that have dog parks, attract folks to come visit. I go to the Jeffersonville one and Morrisville one. We buy a coffee at the cafe, we go shopping, you know, it really brings a lot of potential, you know, revenue into a town. And again, it becomes a destination place. And then all of this ties into the bigger marketing branding plan. And these are all very marketable things. And in light of what just happened the other day, we are working against the tide. We need to not define ourselves as a drug capital and a violent place. We should not define ourselves by these moments. We really need to, if never more than ever, start to really brand ourselves as a beautiful recreation place in our town, a welcoming place. So.
Yes, a matching grant that I wanted to mention, connecting with the pathways plan point is approximately $20,000 that would pay the town match for a feasibility study for the bridge across the Memorial. That would connect the rail trail and would connect the two existing parks. Big park areas, Mill Park and the skate park slash.
The whole community over there.
Yeah, the whole, right.
Currently, right?
Yeah, and the first step is a feasibility study through a state grant that's going to keep repeating. It's a stable state grant.
Lois?
Coming back to the talk about trails and all, I think that the properties, the Chapel property and the Colonial Town Forest, but one of the things that we need, I believe, and we don't have it, is an ecologically informed management plan.
Does that go under the pathways? Is it linked to pathways specifically? Is that where we go among?
We'll go most near our town forest.
Yeah.
I don't-
But is it I feel like it's referenced in there. Okay.
I think it's covered by one of the things that kind of a plan does is it lays out the best areas within each of those two parcels for the various activities that I've heard mentioned and really be a real boost to doing the right thing in the right space.
Yep. Okay. So for other town plan impacts, yep. Okay. You've been quiet about.
Yeah, like basically, I get $600,000 or a little bit more. I'm paid millions of dollars of stuff, which is great. I think I'm gonna have to really, somebody's gonna have to be out of that. So couldn't get as much money there as stock. I love the trails thing and linking the town together seems like the most coordinated, what good most of. It seems like that would be a lot, and then we got to be able to work with the village at the same point. But any matching funds, because you're gonna run out of money nowadays. It doesn't take any money to spend. I spend $3 million a year.
Agreed. Yeah. Lisa?
I have some smaller price tag items.
Let's do it.
Dugouts at Old Mill Park. There.
Is this all rec?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
A playground at the skate park, including a basketball half court.
Okay.
And then under public works / rec / all other committees that need a vehicle, some sort of side-by-side skater or small truck.
Okay. And for the, but Donna?
You know, when Lisa mentioned the idea of a community center, that instantly made me think of what I wished for when I had little kids, which was just some kind of indoor space that you could use in the winter, like ideally a big indoor space. Like Fairfax used to have this toddler gym that we would go to. It's just, when you've got really little kids, it's really hard to find something you can do with them. And, yeah, community center with space. would be awesome.
I wrote kids really. Charlie?
I have a big ticket item, and that's that, the planning commission could use a lot of money to hire a professional to help us write the state mandated town plan, which expires in 2 years.
2024.
Yeah, we need about $20,000 for that. To hire the appropriate consultants. Because volunteers don't have the experience, knowledge, or time.
I'd like to get Jewett property, the light industrial park back from the old, from that list onto this list.
Yes. Yep.
I'd say that the River Street property is a lot easier to try to develop than its own industrial.
The top Williams.
Yeah, that's your property. Is not making a lot of sense.
Okay, what else? Give your hand up, go.
Okay, which is a good point, Bobby, because we have a plan, a shelf-ready plan for the town mill property that's already been, we've had a consultant come in and do all kinds of.
Which comes back here, right?
Well, the Railroad Street area-wide plan, so it's slightly.
That was, that's a village, is that a village plan?
No, it was a town.
Was it that?
Was it a combination? How was it called, brownfield? It was brownfield, but called Railroad Street area-wide.
So it's not Railroad Street area-wide plan.
Thank you.
What's it called? R Street wide.
Area-wide. Area-wide, Railroad Street area-wide.
Go ahead, Charlie.
So when that plan was presented, my understanding was it was a brownfields plan. And now LCPC gets another grant to do another brownfields plan for Johnson. I mean, that's the problem, we're the same thing over and over, we never get anything done.
Plans written and rewritten. Charlie, you didn't have anything you want to add? As you're running up?
And I'm like, is it, see, I'm digging the conversation, this is brainstorming, right?
Is it brown?
The tree board tends to think of Johnson's possibilities in the tree capital of Vermont. And that's actually probably.
Gonna drop it or something?
We already have an arboretum, and, that's kind of. There are a lot of things we need, and we'd like to want a lot of.
Okay.
This was, so arboretum development.
Tree capital, yeah, that's all.
Is it about arboretum specifically, or is it about tree board overall?
We have good funding for the street trees, and there aren't too many more street trees. So we need the arboretum. We look at that as a spec off today. One of the things we need to drive the work back from the opening to the storage area. It's very wet. It's very fun.
That about it being wet down there. Yeah.
It's wet.
That's done. What about anybody from the board? Do you have any brilliant ideas over there? I just see the energy flowing.
We're here to listen, great.
All right,
But you are also a citizen. So you could have.
that's true.
I could have an idea that that would be bad.
Rosemary, go.
Records digitization.
I love that one.
Yes.
Records digitization.
Along with land records and tax maps, and we are close to the floodplain, so if anything ever happens to our records. If people could sell their properties or get mortgages.
Rosemary did land records, and what was the other thing?
Land records and tax maps.
We also could get tax bills if that happened.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
We'll make a point, we'll have to wait till the road's over. Kyle?
A proper bike lane.
On
no,
which
on Riot,
Oh,
on River Street, I guess.
Like,
That's part of the pathways plan. Okay, there, right.
I'm curious. I've talked to some folks lately and I'm curious on your thoughts, sorry, or to run this by you, but I'm curious on your thoughts about housing, about other economic development ideas, other ways of back to this livability, but livability away from the rec side and more about the what kind of, well, back to the attraction, actually, moving people in, like what kind of attractions do we have to bring families to our community? That kind of idea. Do you guys have thoughts on any of that?
A conversation I had today was the school's having a lot of teacher turnover this year. And young teachers can't find places to live here, so they can sit in our schools. That's a problem.
Availability of housing for teachers?
Send me an email.
Yeah, same thing with the Vermont Studio Center and NVU. They're frantically looking for housing for professors and.
Question on that, is there good recent data set from LCPC on how much vacant or derelict housing we have here now?
There hasn't been anything since the pandemic. There's a relatively recent housing needs assessment by the Lemoyle Housing Partnership and Lemoyle County Planning Commission, but it was still pre-pandemic, so a lot has changed.
I guess behind that question was the point that I think it would benefit us to have an overview plan and discussion about how much and what kind of housing, et cetera, rather than giving just a random. Because, yeah.
It's not a money thing, but I think that people of Johnson should maybe think about it. It's time to do some kind of neighborhood watch. I've been running Rift out here since last September. You know, there's 13 drug addicts that have been hanging across the street from me. They're gone now because we've had a concentrated effort of pushing out of town. It's unfortunate. They're going to probably go to Jeffersonville. They're going to go to Jericho, but they've got to get out of here because it's ruining the town. And the police can only do so much. They tried to bust up that house in Morrisville the other day. Had 8 of them out there and didn't get anything. We might have put one person in it, but it's getting too ridiculous. And the way that we found is that we take them from here and just make them uncomfortable as much as you can. I went over, I told them I'm going to take a picture every day. I'm going to call every day. I'm going to bug the police every day and get some of the police pulled up behind me. But unless we do that, I think we're going to keep running the thing. And I don't think it's just on Merrick Street. I think it's sometimes, as I was told, it's out in the country and the manager that there did. And somebody literally goes out and says, hey, you're sick of 20,000 people showing up at your house daily. And, you know, I think it's just a neighborhood thing where you just say, hey, but I don't think it's a lot of money. I just think you got to push them in one place.
I was asking around about this and I heard about some discussion that had been happening and there wasn't a lot of interest at the time, but about doing a group funding of security cameras and that type of thing. So. I don't mean group funding for private security purchases.
We've all got them, there's no reason we can step up.
Yeah.
Not, that's what I'm saying, not that it's not, but I hear, it. I don't, yeah, I don't want to live in the
Yeah.
Lois, yeah.
I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on back to the communication, because I think the lack of communication, lots of new people have moved into town during the pandemic. And unless you bump into them on the street, you don't have a sense of who's who. And I think if we had, when I think about that, is it constant contact, which is a form of information specifically with, the one I follow was in May, and it's just a wonderful information about what's going on in town and done not every day, but like once a week. And with pictures and really make connections. And it would be a real good chance for the volunteer groups to get information out, the town fathers to get stuff out.
So
that and updating this system so that when you're having public meetings, the people who are at home can hear, There's so many times that at home you don't hear the whole of anything. Sometimes it even skews what's coming out from the discussion. So I think, upgrading this system and looking at redoing the webpage to get into something that's more interactive.
So constant contact is only as good as the people behind it. And I think that's true of any system or any tool. So I broke this out to say systems. I also think that if we invest in something like this, we need to make sure we have the people behind it to support it. So I'm just going to break this out into two different things, and one is the people and one is the systems.
Not just the hardware.
It's not just the software or hardware or anything else. Yep.
Talking about that, I think that my time in office has led me to believe that Rosemary and Brian would benefit from like a part-time administrative assistant or something. It's just my personal opinion. I think they do a very good job, but they're here late and they're here early and they're here on weekends. And I wonder if they could delegate. The people already working down there have everything delegated when they can. Their plates are full, so maybe a little more support for them.
$2 trillion now.
She said just green. She just said like
we're just dreaming.
This is just Christmas dreams.
We'll spend some more time like saying, okay, what of this is realistic? What of this can we get the most bang for our buck out of? But is there something that we can match partially for grant funding and get a whole bunch more money? So that kind of thing. But
I think you got a lot of those there, even in the building, even if you get hold of the phone, you just have to put down payment or do a bond, or maybe you could do the research and then we could possibly bond for it. It's a great idea. You're gonna get it all out at once.
yeah, that's a good point. I'm just gonna put bond
Might just be
opportunity.
doing, or hiring a grant writer.
Maybe they could donate it to us. No, they're not keeping it because it needs a lot of work. They said that from the beginning, and so.
Yeah.
We'd have to remind you of a small bond.
So where are we with our economic development, $30,000 person?
It was 40 is what was
40,
in the
all right.
thing, yep. And we are working on, we pretty much concluded we need to go with contract.
Because that would fact, I'm gonna go with contract.
I believe that's what we concluded last meeting, just looking for consensus.
Thought Charlie was gonna volunteer time.
Yeah,
Well, I'm gonna volunteer all my spare time.
So
Between naps.
we will be, Brian's working on writing something up, an RFP up, and we'll be reviewing and pushing it out very soon. So it's in the next fiscal budget, which starts July 1st.
Did the village ever revisit that?
They have not revisited, to my knowledge.
No, they were
this
going
year.
I think they might have put it off until next year. I think I read that. Is that?
I think that we haven't discussed it for the future, but I'm looking at ARPA money being used for economic development, and I'm thinking maybe we could use some of that money to hire somebody to write grants, yeah, and do economic development. I mean, what should you guys?
There you have it, Lois. All your answers. Okay, anything else? What else? Anything else? Walter, you gotta have something else in there. I can see you thinking.
One topic at a time.
Okay, fair enough.
Walter wants a water fountain in Village Green.
Some boat trucks.
I don't know if it needs to be added or if it's buried in there, but you've started computer system changeover. And it needs a lot of tweaking. Or it needs, excuse me, it needs tweaking. Whatever you computer changed over from the old website to the current website.
The cookie website.
Documents have been lost.
It is not. It was a temporary fix to solve a walker we had at the immediate time.
No, I understand. So you can take some of the money and fix it.
Yep, I think that's what the intent here was, Lois.
Yep.
Yeah, so the website, yeah. We agree, Charlie.
It's not part of communications, but like the website will also be part of.
And also the hardware, the server here sometimes gets overloaded when there's people zooming and I don't know how it works. But I know that
the server here, the server, we haven't heard.
Charlie's right about the bottleneck is, we do have a file server that's unrelated to this. Our wireless network for devices gets easily overwhelmed.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I bet if, with fewer people than we have tonight, we run out of available ways for people to connect, and it gets pretty slow for everyone who is connected.
Okay, I've experienced that too, so file server upgrade.
Is that what it is?
Wireless system.
A wireless file server, okay. Server upgrade, how about that? For wireless. Okay.
This is a silly one. Is that a paper cutter?
Every whole bunch I hear about.
It just needs tuning. We got a brand new pool bunch.
You said it's you said we're asking for too much.
So, there you go.
Need a few to just cross off the list.
We're not gonna add the wireless onto the list then. Okay. Let's dying down. So, I'm gonna take pictures.
Yeah.
I think you should.
Brian's been taking recording behind her.
Well, yeah.
Still, see the picture of that.
Yes,
Ready
so
to
She's ready.
My camera's operating better, yes. What were you saying, Evan?
Said you should take pictures.
Thank you.
May I just, before we take a picture? I interrupted Kyle, and she's saying public pool outdoor. It's, what she's talking about is something that she's talked to me about a lot, and it has nothing to do with supporting the pool at Shape. This is a freestanding, awesome outdoor facility that is enjoyed in the summer season and closed for the winter. So maybe taking public pool as its own thing, and then, you know, supporting BSU as a different line item. Because her intent got lost when I over talked her.
So it should be.
Just let me throw it there. Very good. So our next steps, we're also going to publish a survey, put it out in the survey world. We'll ask for some identifying information from respondents so we can try to verify that they're Johnson residents. So we can't try to submit 50 entries on that. We'll push that out, we'll compile everything, and then we'll go through let's filter stuff out. We'll do the easy filter, cross things off, like this just isn't a high priority. We'll do that as part of our select board review and process.
How will that get out to the Johnson?
The results?
No.
The survey?
The actual survey.
The survey we will push through Front Porch Forum, we'll push it through Facebook, and we will also send through our email distribution list and encourage people to share. We don't have constant contacts.
Press too, though. I mean, like they put in the using citizen. I think that there's a lot of people that don't do any of those.
Yes, I love the way you're thinking.
Or would go mail with tax bills, utility bills, whatever.
Yeah. Yes.
Use existing.
Stack post office.
Yes.
We can have paper copies here at the office.
I'm going to say that I can't commit to everything on behalf of the board because some of what you're talking about costs money. We'll have to just think for it. But I think that's a good one.
So the league, as I emailed all of you, highly recommended creating an advisory committee once you sort of do this brainstorming session. Is that something the select board is thinking they're going to be the advisory committee, or will you create a?
Yeah, the league actually says that other towns have done this.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't necessarily say that they recommend it or not. They didn't use the word recommend. I did check it out just to make sure we were under the right guidance. And yeah, the board will take it. So the board will go through, we'll do it in a public meeting. We certainly, take feedback as you all know, but we'll do it in a public meeting and we're probably not going to have this. We're just going to go through it so we can get rolling on making sure we have things lined up.
Schedule for that survey, is there a timeline?
Brian, do you have thoughts on timeline?
I doubt it'll be before July 1st. I think between now and the next select board meeting, pretty tied up. Hopefully in between those two, we can make time to.
I'll be working on it too, so we'll see, but we do want to get it out quickly.
Yeah.
So.
Part of the reason I ask is probably we're working on a town plan, and as part of working on a town plan, the planning commission was planning to do a survey also.
Oh, cool.
And I love some of the ideas that are up there because a lot of that was sort of themes we were hitting on. So we'll be looking for town response also. Maybe there's a way to work together on that.
Yeah, maybe the three of us can get an email string. I'll reach out to you, Paul. I have to reach out to you actually about something slightly different. Walter.
Well, I want to direct a question to Diane, who is the trustee here. Are the trustees going to have a similar meeting like this?
We haven't discussed it, but
Okay.
Rosemary did say that we had to do some stuff pretty soon.
Okay.
So I would think we would.
Okay.
Well, there's a clarification, Ken and Steve are on the same call. When the trustees are tuned in, Ken and Steve are on the same call.
Okay. I think if there's nothing else, we should, Oh, go ahead.
Is your timeline by which this money has to be spent or committed?
Yes, we have to spend by the end of 2026.
I think you're right. Like committed by 2025 and spent by 2026.
I mean, it's one thing I think. Okay, cool. I think we'll call it then. Thank you all for coming out. If you think of anything, let us know. We'll add it to the list. Thanks.
So you don't want to stick around for the meeting?
Yeah, we have one more agenda item. So we're not ending the meeting yet. It's going to be a about where we're going to meet next. So.
If it's not 4th of July, you're gonna factor in Monday night pizza bags. Starts getting complicated. Starts getting complicated.
Board, let's wrap up, shall we?
Thank you.
Thanks for this. Yeah. Ready to focus? Let's focus. Then we can get out of here. Eric asked when we have to set the tax rate. We close in order to set a tax rate. Is that correct? When we set tax rate next meeting on a week.
Could not, grants has not been finalized.
Okay, so we have to do it the first week of July. Okay, got it. The first week of July. But Friday is the first, I believe, if I remember correctly. And then we normally have a meeting on the 4th, which is Monday, but it's a holiday.
We normally meet on the 4th of July?
No, we normally on Monday.
She said 4th.
So, would it be okay if we set the tax rate on the 6th, Rosemary?
Yes.
Which is a Wednesday?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay, so I would also propose that we not only meet to set the tax rate on the 6th, but we also just have a regular meeting on the 6th. If that works for everybody. That's the 6th.
Riveting idea.
Good.
I think
I'm gonna put it in my brain right now.
we should meet on the 4th. I actually have freedom Monday.
Let's slip it next to the head.
Yeah.
My daughter is coming from California, my daughter's family is coming from California. We're gonna be at my camp the 3rd, or the 4th, or the 5th. I think we're gonna be back on the 6th. So I get some.
Okay, and if you can't make it, you can't make it. We all miss one eventually. Okay, cool. So 6th it is.
You said 6:30.
Yeah.
And you got high-speed internet?
You know, I actually have better cell service at my camp than I do here.
Also, just FYI, I will be traveling home on the 4th.
Yeah.
Oh, trust me.
Fingers crossed.
I'm on the 4th, and I'm actually flying from London on the 4th, so I will be tired. So I'll be here help with the agenda stuff, and I'll do it for the different parties too.
How long are you meeting?
I'm leaving this Sunday, the 26th, and back on the 4th. And then session. First.
Sure. We should hire employees from first.
Go first. Have fun. Yeah, they don't want to party with you. I'm sure they want to party with somebody other than you. Okay, are we done? Is the record time?
Probably not a record, but
Good.
Not that we've got.
It's not 11 o'clock.
It's not.
I encourage everybody that can to join the
I kind of
It's super easy for people to get taken with. I don't send that any emails out to it. It is the best way to be informed.
Can we just buy the emails so everybody knows?
Can you what?
Buy the emails. I would like to have everybody who lives in Johnson.
Oh, yeah, you can buy this, yeah, you can buy marketing lists, sure.
What is that, like a couple $100?
I mean, honestly,
The people that want the information.
I wouldn't ask for Walter's, so. Let's put a camera outside his house for
To not have as many emails as we can possibly get.
the thing is, we have a lot of emails, with all of the rec emails over the years, we have a lot of families. that we file all those rec
It would be
emails.
cheaper.
Yeah.
Paid for marketing, Facebook.
But not everybody's on Facebook. We need to have an Instagram.
If
Really, we
we-
need to have an Instagram account, and we,
And it's a what?
and then we start TikToking.
Oh, geez. Yeah, it just is crazy. Yeah, maybe they would have like a really good following.
Says the guy that has a beluga horn on his iPhone.
What's the other?
If we wanted to,
Snapchat.
if we wanted to
I don't feel like you know. what you
start
want.
signing people up, that's right, but we've got a lot of people's email addresses from participating in the rec or just emailing about random things. That if we were just gonna start signing people up without their permission, there's a lot of people we
Yeah,
can
we
sign up.
had like 3 minutes, seriously.
I was just gonna do that. Well,
No, move it ahead.
what we, if we gave as many people as emails.
What time do you want to do
We have a way to communicate. I'm not saying that we want to
You don't want to.
communicate every week, but I would like it. Communicate in a way that we absolutely. It's just 20th century. It's many emails as possible.
The thing is, we'll collect them too with the capture emails and residential addresses.
Suggestion of hidden citizen. Not everybody's on front porch forum.
No, there's a lot of.
Yeah.
a lot of radio, I know.
Who reads the newspapers?
All along.
I'm just sick of reading it.
I'll go read them.
Plus, I'm sick of reading stuff. And
Gotta look at the picture.
when I. What is it with you people?
When you get to be higher, you're gonna be off control. When I look at the picture, in white pictures, that's right.
Yeah.
Brandon, it's your right. I figured that you.
No, no, I think it's good to get, you know, to have them to compare when we go to make the survey that we've got. You know, we're writing the same topic, but we probably didn't always write the same description of it.
Figure out. Did you, hey Brian, this pen I'm putting here, actually, I'm just gonna all this garbage.
Yes.
Beth, you did a great job tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I love this stuff, this is my favorite.